Welcome back, Fairbanks. I'm Nick Williams, the Alaskan Realtor, and today we're talking about you buyers, but more importantly, we're going to talk about what you're not being told about real estate, what you're not being explained properly in real estate. And I think this video is specifically for Fairbanks because that's the only place I work, but can be used in other markets as well. So if you've relocated out of here, if you just happen to stumble across my video, please stay tuned. I think I can give you some nuggets that will help you. We're going to dial down the theatrics here on YouTube, and I'm going to have a little bit more honest of a conversation with you because these are the things that I wish I was told when I bought my first property, the things that I later on learned as a realtor, and that I am more recently learning that you're not being told on the regular. Now, if you're one of my clients, you've heard all of these things. None of it's new. We talk about it during all of our buyer's consultations. So let's start there. What is a buyer's consultation and why do I make you do it? Well, it's so that we can set up the stage and get you prepared. I don't know if you've played sports, but if you do, you warm up. You go stretch a little bit before you actually go play the sport. That's what our buyer consultation is. It's our warm up, it's our onboarding, it is our meet and greet, whatever you want to call it. But if a realtor is not forcing you, not just giving you the opportunity, but making you meet them in their office to get to know them, you might have somebody that's trying to rush you through the process. I'm not accusing anybody, I'm just saying that there are correct and incorrect ways of doing things, and I think setting the table before dinner is a lot better than sitting down to eat and then just getting back up for each side course that you want. So that's what a buyer's consultation is. It is literally the realtor and the potential buyer meeting and talking about what are we about to do. So if you work with me, we're gonna have a conversation about getting pre-approved, the home buying process, what my contract actually says, and what homes are options for you in reality. Those are kind of the most important parts. If any one of those you fail because you can't get a loan or can't get pre-approved, you're not willing to listen to what you're about to do because you have no interest in it, if you're not finding any options on the home that are suitable to you or what you can afford, or even want to sign the contract that hires your professional representation, then those are major red flags for any professional realtor. Those should also be red flags for you if any of those are skipped, because I think, in my opinion, those are very crucial steps. So that's number one. Number two is earnest money. Now, this is something that about 90% of my clients that buy homes with me have never even heard of. It is something in every single market because it's called consideration. It's what makes your contract legally binding. You have to give something up to tie this contract up. The seller has real estate. The seller has a property that's actively being sold that once we have a contract will no longer actively be sold. It will be pending. It will be in escrow. So that is your collateral, if you will. Now that money will come back to you at closing. That is just a deposit usually held with the buyer's brokerage, unless of course we do something fishy and the listing agent requests it to be transferred for their safekeeping because they no longer trust us due to normally a bad faith negotiation violation. Now keep in mind, most of those violations could actually cost you your earnest money, so work with a realtor that can explain to you what good faith, bad faith is, and what some of the pitfalls of the earnest money traps are. I'm one of them, but then again, there are plenty of great realtors here in Fairbanks. I can't work with all of you, even though I would love to. And if you need any recommendations, obviously I will throw my own name in there, but I will gladly tell you who else in this town has a great practice and is really good at explaining things to you, the client. Earnest money is kind of negotiable. Now I'll tell you that no one's gonna take it for $1. This is what the seller gets as collateral damage if you breach the contract. So they want some skin on the game. I'll tell you the minimum they're usually willing to accept is 1 month's mortgage. Since you're gonna be wasting about 6 weeks of their time, the average transaction period in Fairbanks is 45 days. They're gonna want somewhere around that mortgage number. Now, what is our market standard? Well, our MLS kind of said that 2% earnest money is kind of what most of the sellers are asking for. So this is not a requirement. This is completely negotiable, but 2% is where it starts at. It is a 2% deposit held with the buyer's brokerage, usually in the form of a wire or a cashier's check. Some brokerages do allow you to do personal checks. ACHs are very rare, just so you guys know. So no Venmo, no PayPal, no Cash App, that kind of stuff. Other things that earnest money is used for is essentially to release you from the contract. Other things it can be used for or needed for is lender verification. Again, they're going to want to verify that you did put some skin in the game and that you do have an earnest money deposit with a brokerage. Now, other places the title company holds these. Other places it's a flat $500 fee. Yes, I've heard it all. Thank you. I've worked with clients from all across the country. And yes, it's different other places. I'm just telling you what it's like in Fairbanks, North Pole, Alaska. That's it. Something else unique about Fairbanks that you will come to learn, or maybe have already noticed, but we don't do a lot of open houses. Everywhere else, and this is my number 2 point, open houses are done everywhere in the country, every weekend, and sometimes they're very successful. Well, after years and years in this industry, I will tell you, they do not work in Fairbanks, Alaska. We're not a very drivable town. Now, that's not saying that people aren't driving every day on the roads. We are. We're not just dog mushing and riding polar bears around. But we're not just driving and cruising through neighborhoods looking for sale signs and open houses signs. And our advertising marketing world here is a little bit subpar to San Antonio, New York City, Miami, and other places. So getting the word out about our open houses, I think, is problem number 1. But open houses aren't really for you. They're for the agent. So normally agents that do open houses are looking for clients and buyers. Now, sometimes it's for that specific house. More times than not, because only one person can buy that house, we're trying to get names and email addresses to get you on our roster to go show you other properties. So that's not a reason why we don't do them. That is just a reason for them. And I want you to keep that in mind because most professionals probably won't tell you that. Moving on to other reasons why open houses don't really work. It's cold here in the winter, and again, people aren't getting out. And buying a house is just too easy nowadays on the internet with all the photos, virtual tours, 3D walkthroughs, and so much more that you can get, that most people actually just enjoy looking at the homes from their house. Now, sellers that want open houses because they think it's going to help sell their home, most of the time, realtors are going to charge you an additional fee to host an open house, and that's usually their hourly rate. And then they're going to sit at your house for 2 to 3 hours, and the only people that are going to show up are going to be your neighbors because they've driven by your house a dozen times, they see the open house sign because they live on your street, and they're curious what the inside of the house looks like because they have nothing better to do on a Saturday or Sunday. This sounds harsh, and I'm not trying to be rude or anything like that, but it's just the fact of the matter that buyers don't really attend these things. If anything, other realtors are going to show up because they're friends with your realtor, and it's going to make it look a little bit busier and maybe help that realtor see what the inside of the house is like for other clients that he might or she wants to bring to your house in the future. So open houses, not really a thing here. You'll see more brokers opens than you actually will open houses. And what a broker open is exactly what I just mentioned. An open house for real estate professionals because they're on our mailing list, and we can tell every realtor in our MLS, hey, I'm doing a broker's open, come check out my cool property, and hopefully you can find it useful to show to some of your buyers in the future. So open houses, not a thing. You're probably not going to get one if you're here, and just be aware of that. The third thing that you don't get told in real estate is how to actually communicate and set up a showing with a real estate agent. Now, if you could all follow this instruction and I could just implant it in everybody's brain, that would be awesome, but that's not how the world works. So hopefully this video will at least reach the right people. And what I mean by that is I get nameless text messages out of the blue from unknown numbers saying, I want to look at the house on ABC Street. Or I get somebody that pushes that button on Zillow or homes.com that says, I want a showing tour tomorrow. The truth of the matter is what we went to earlier, buyer consultation. You got to hire a realtor before they're going to show it to you. And just because you reach out to the listing agent doesn't mean they're going to drop what they're doing and show you the house. I know it's scary and there's lots of steps to all this, but real estate professionals do not get paid by the hour. And if we did, I'm sure a lot of you would not want to pay us that fee. And so the way we actually make our money is by selling the house on getting paid on the back end off of a commission. So realtors are getting pickier than ever since more and more people than ever like looking at houses. And you need to be financially vetted and you need to be hiring your professional representation before you can look at the house. And that's gonna lead me on to my next one, which is dual agency, but we're not quite there yet. So by reaching out to the listing agent, they're not always gonna be available to show you the home. They're gonna make you sign a piece of paper to work with them just like a buyer's agent would. So if you want to work with the listing agent because that person knows the most about that property, second to only the owner, I think that's a decent idea. If you want to reach out to that listing agent because you want a simpler, less emotional transaction between the buyer and seller, again, I think that's a great idea. But if you're just reaching out to them to get a showing as fast as possible, and then you're going to use your realtor later on, I will tell you 9 out of 10 times that real estate professional will actually negotiate a lower commission on your buyer's agent brokerage side, meaning that you have to make up the difference in that commission. So pump the brakes, slow down a little bit, thank the listing agent for being an advertising professional, and then call a buyer's broker to help you see the house. That's my golden tip. If you don't listen to anything else in this video and you made it this far, do that. Okay, guys? Getting into the house as fast as possible is not always your benefit, because what you'll see is a lot of professionals skip steps, rush to failure, and in the end that could lose some earnest money. That could get you to then have to spin your wheels to get pre-approved. And by that time, the house sells to a already done buyer that's working with me because we took all the proper steps in order and they were ready to go when they looked at the house, rather than somebody that wasn't ready to go when they looked at the house. And lastly, the thing I want to wrap this video up with is neutral licensees, neutral agency. Some states call it dual agency, but here in Alaska, it's neutral licensees. That would be if I am listing a property and I have it on the market and you call me as a buyer to go see it. We then do our buyer's consultation. I have you sign all the proper forms, make sure you're financially ready, and then we go look at the house. If you like that house, you can buy it and I become a neutral licensee. If you do not like that house, I stay your representation and we move on to other properties. But once this contract happens and you are buying the home that I showed you that I also listed, which by the way, should always be disclosed, a good indicator is look at the signs on the property. If it's my face, that means it's my listing. If it's somebody else's name or sign, then I'm usually just representing you as a buyer's agent. Don't worry, if you're working with me, I always tell you if it's my listing or not, and you can tell because I'll know a lot more about the listing than I do about other properties. Now, the truth of the matter is, yes, we get both sides of that commission. We get the seller side commission and the buyer side commission. So I always want to be transparent with you when it comes to my pay and what I get. Now, if you are working with me and one of my listings, all of my listing contracts have my seller pre-agreeing to paying both my buyer and seller's agent fee, and it is pre-negotiated. So you don't have to worry about paying me more than a simple transaction fee, and that's usually $250. Now, this is as of August 2026. Fees are always able to change in the future, so always look at the date of this video and what I just mentioned and see if the fees change. That will be in my contract. We'll cover that during our buyer's consultation, which I think is the most valuable thing that I provide you in the entire real estate experience. I will make sure that you know what's going on throughout the entire process, start to finish. Now back to dual agency. Some buyers love this. In my opinion, me at least, I think it's a great idea because it simplifies communication. It takes that telephone game from a 4-person conversation, buyer, buyer's agent, seller, down to a 3-person telephone game, buyer, me, seller. And so it simplifies the entire process, reducing the drama, reducing the stress, reducing the amount of errors that could possibly happen. Now, like I mentioned in some other videos, we always want to think of things on the flip side. So on the flip side, I have a lot of buyers or sellers concerned on who do I truly work for? And the answer is neither or both, depending on how you want to look at it. But what are you losing with neutral licensee? You're still going to get the same recommendations because in the end, as a real estate agent, I don't get to make any of the decisions. I'm not the one you're negotiating with. The other party is. I am just the mediator in this situation. And so in the end, if you tell me you want X, Y, and Z, I'll tell you the pros and cons of doing what you're about to do. And then I'm going to go over to the seller, explain to them your request and the pros and cons of accepting, rejecting, or countering that request. And that's how that process is gonna go. So I do think it is a simpler and more streamlined way of doing business, but there is more gray area for accusations, and that is the number one thing that I want to avoid, is anybody pointing fingers at anybody else. Let's just get through this all. In the end, it doesn't have to be buyer versus seller. It can be both of us on the same team, because we're moving towards a mutual goal. The seller wants to sell their house and the buyer wants to buy the house. I don't see where the opposing forces are. Now, if you start high and later want to go low, you're changing terms, that will cause some frictions. If you're indicating you're buying the house as is and then come back and want to negotiate a bunch of repairs, that again will cause some drama, but it's not from the professional in the middle, it is from the changing of the terms. So let's live in reality and not in an emotional world, and actually see what we're doing for what we're doing. And in the end, try to get you the best home possible, whether it's a condo, duplex, single family home, or just some land. Go ahead and Google all of your local realtors, call them, and see who will maybe give you some advice that's different than what I just gave you in this video. Good hunting out there, guys. Hopefully you find a great home. And if you have any questions, I'm always around to try to answer some questions, give some more advice, and hopefully you enjoy my real estate series. Have a great day.